Hi, welcome once again to Mosquito Bites and Mysteries. We're looking at the history of Florida and then some spiritual application for what for many of us is new stuff that we never knew. Since we record here in Florida, since it's where the Church at 434 does ministry in Florida, where the Church at 434 Motion comes from, Florida really is a part of our background and part of the setting in which we try to do the best ministry we can do. And so today, I want to talk to you about the Panhandle. Now, some of you are familiar with the Panhandle of Florida. It's that part of the state, at the top of the state, that kind of jets across toward Alabama. As a matter of fact, it extends west nearly all the way into Mobile, Alabama. And if you've ever traveled in Florida, you notice that when you make the turn off Interstate 75 down Interstate 10, heading toward Alabama through the Panhandle of Florida, you'll discover that that part of the state is a lot more southern than South Florida. When I say South Florida, I'm talking about that Miami area, the Key West area of the state. You'll find there more young natives in the Panhandle as opposed to northern retirees. In the Panhandle, it's easier to find more grits and fewer bagels. As you move through the Panhandle, you'll find out that you meet some people who have draws that can be as thick as those grits. And the Civil War, sometimes when they refer to it, they just call it the wah. They don't say or pronounce all the noises, they just call it the wah. Well, also tucked away in that Panhandle is the capital. But state representatives from Miami are closer to Havana than they are to Tallahassee. And if the southeastern United States made geographical sense, Florida's capital probably would be near Central Florida, Orlando, and the Panhandle would be part of Alabama. This is where the mystery of the history comes into play, because what's almost forgotten in state history is that the division of the Panhandle separating from the rest of the peninsula almost happened after the Civil War. The state of Florida offered to sell the territory that we call the Panhandle today, somewhere about that cutoff where Interstate 75 jets out into Interstate 10 and begins cutting across toward the Panhandle, rolling toward Pensacola, on into southern Alabama. They offered it to Alabama. But because of the war that had taken place, or the wall that had taken place, the war-depleted Cotton State couldn't come up with the money. And because they couldn't come up with the money, so now the Panhandle coastline, also known as the Redneck Riviera, remains a part of Florida. And if you ever traveled through Florida, you notice that really is a very distinct area of the state, yet very much a part of the complexity and the mystery that makes Florida the amazing state that it is. But what you probably didn't know was that little bit of history that I just told you, that at one time Alabama had the chance to buy it, but they just didn't because they didn't have the money. So if you're one of our watchers who watches us in the Panhandle, you could have been an Alabamian. And that could be good or that could be bad. That might be exciting to you. That might not be exciting to you. But understand that for every bit of history that's out there, every bit of history contains a bit of mystery. Somewhere in the background, if you peel back the layers and you begin to understand, there might be a reason for the way things are. Think about your life for just a minute. See, people look at you, they look at me, they see how we react, they hear how we talk, they see the way that we kind of function in life. And they make value judgments about us based on what they see. Those value judgments are made and then they're just taken and, for the most part, believed to be true without ever taking the time to start peeling back the layers to try to understand, is there a reason that that person reacts or thinks or does or says the things that they say? The backstory, the history, the mystery always does lend itself toward a better understanding of what you're seeing taking place in the world around you. So don't be afraid of the history. Don't be afraid of discovering the mystery. Because when you do, you might just find a greater appreciation and a greater understanding once you know the explanation of why things are. And so, For all of you panhandlers here in the state of Florida, we're glad that you're here. I personally am glad that Alabama didn't have the money at the time, because Panhandle is a part of that rich history that makes Florida such a unique and amazing place. And now you know some of the history that makes it that way. I look forward to joining you next time as we look more at mosquito bites and mystery here in the state of Florida.